Welcome to the Cunningham Piano Show, where we explore life between the keys. I'm your host, Hugh Sung, and in this episode, I am so delighted to introduce you to a fantastic young pianist. Her name is Maya Keren. Maya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because we actually first met in the Cunningham factory in Germantown, and
Yes.
I met you, and you were working with wired de-stringing a piano, and I guess you were doing an internship with us. Tell me a little bit about what that's all about.
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity my junior year to spend a month at Cunningham Pianos, learning about, what's inside a piano, being able to take it apart, put it back together.
Getting your hands dirty and just
Exactly,
doing
yeah.
working with all the tools and everything.
Yeah.
I was so impressed. In fact, I think we even wrote an article about you, but
Yes.
an intern, who was interested in. So, tell me what you learned from that internship. What drove you to want to work with pianos that way?
Yeah, so I'd always loved playing piano, and I always loved the aspect of music that's just kind of emotional part of it. But I really also wanted to know the kind of mechanical part of it as well, because I want to be able to appreciate it from that side as well. So I basically just wanted to be able to get a greater understanding of how the music actually works on a physical, like an actual physical level within the piano. So I think that definitely gave me a greater appreciation for the music that I'm playing, especially kind of the sound of certain instruments, because I now know what goes into making them sound that way.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, I think, too, because this is leading you to your school. You've just been accepted to Princeton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. And
Thank
I understand that you're interested in pursuing studies in engineering.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. So it sounds like music, engineering, the piano is probably the most perfect example of the evolution of musical engineering on the highest
Definitely,
level.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have always been interested in math and science as well. But I think that my love for those things comes alive the most when it's combined with music. So, I mean, like you said, the piano is a perfect example of that. But some other examples, I guess, are some of my idols in music. One of them is Jacob Collier, who is this British musician who's kind of a jazz prodigy, up and coming. And something that I really love watching him do is he has this one instrument called the harmonizer, which was created by Ben Bloomberg at MIT. And it's kind of like this machine that it's kind of like a piano, and he sings into the microphone, and it actually, whatever he's playing, the notes he's playing, his voice will come out like that. So it's
like a chord,
like
a chord,
exactly,
a vocal
like a
chord,
chorus.
right.
So my dream would be able to be kind of inventing machines like that, or creating technology like that.
That blend
by
music
combining,
and technology. That'd be so
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
Now, I want to dive a little bit into your origins, how you got
Sure,
started
yeah.
in the piano, because as I understand it, there was a bit of a hate-hate relationship with music in the beginning.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your musical beginnings.
So I started playing piano at around 7 years old. My parents kind of forced me into doing it. It wasn't my own choice to do that. And I started with classical piano. I hated practicing every day. I hated how every note had to be completely the same every time you played it, and how I felt like I was constrained to just playing what was written on the page.
So why did you just quit? I mean, it sounded like you hated it.
Yeah.
You felt constricted by it. What made you keep going with your piano studies?
So around 12 or 13, I guess.
Wow, you really stuck with it for a long time.
I know. My parents really had a strong
Boy,
force
they
on
really
what I was doing.
strong-armed you there.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sensing some childhood trauma here, but
Perhaps.
go on. Okay.
No, so I think it was maybe Chick Corea. He's a jazz pianist, but he also writes some kind of contemporary, I guess, mixed music that sounds slightly classical, slightly jazz. So one of those pieces was Chick Corea's children's songs, which are kind of, I guess, more contemporary sounding pieces for young kids. They're a little bit simpler. And I played those, and I found that I loved playing this music that sounded kind of different from what I had been learning before. And then I'd also grown up listening to jazz. Both my parents really liked jazz, and I'd always had Ella Fitzgerald records playing in the kitchen. And so my teacher suggested that maybe I learn a few jazz tunes. And from there, it was just completely different.
The box was open.
Yes, so I just never looked back on that.
Oh, that is so cool. So I want to dive back a little bit into your piano engineering side.
Sure, yeah.
Because one of the things that we do, it's a unique part of the show, is we ask our guests to choose from a variety of pianos to select the piano they want to perform on in their episode. And Maya, you were actually begging to play this Bösendorfer 200.
Yes.
Why did you choose this piano? Now, you can probably speak to it, not just as a pianist, but also as an engineer. Tell me why you love this piano so much.
Well, I guess most significantly is just because of its sound and its action. Because I'd say that the Bösendorfer is probably one of the most, I guess, in the scale of pianos from very bright to very mellow, it's right in the middle, which I love. So you have Yamaha, which is really bright, and then Steinway and Sons, which is on the more mellow side. And so Bösendorfer is just the Goldilocks of those two. And then again, the action. I prefer pianos that have probably, I guess, on not super heavy, but I don't like it when pianos are too reactive to your touch.
You're finding a really nice balance.
Exactly. So I'd say Bösendorfer is definitely one of my favorite pianos because of just the pure balance of it.
Interesting. Fascinating. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be playing for us.
So I'm going to be playing two songs today. The first one is Body and Soul, which was written in 1930. It's a classic jazz ballad, and it's actually interesting. In the past, it started off as kind of a very emotionally moving song, but then players, starting with Coleman Hawkins, kind of used it to show off their virtuosity, their technical abilities. But I kind of want to take it back to that time where it's just simpler, I guess, more kind of trying to express a certain emotion. So
and what's the other song that you're going to play?
The other song is called I Should Care, which was written in the 1940s. And that is, again, another jazz standard, which is a more mid-tempo swing tune. It also is very versatile in that it can be played very fast or it can kind of be taken down. So I play around with it a little bit. I start off a little bit more rubato, kind of playing around with the time, and then I get into the swing.
Cool.
And I have a couple courses of improvisation there.
Awesome. Well, let's hear you play.
Yeah.
You know, Maya, I am personally so jealous of pianists who play jazz, you know, because I'm primarily a classical player myself, and I find myself yearning to do things that are different and to make my own music. And here you really are. The melody, in a sense, is just the skeleton. It's just one tiny piece that you then have a playground of musical ideas to work with, and the rest of it is all you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was interesting. You were saying in that second song that some people, well, with both songs, people have different styles that they either play fast or slow. But that's true for all jazz tunes. I mean, you can take any jazz tune and play it at any speed you want, right? So, but it's just really your feeling. So you were talking a little about the feelings. What were some of the emotions that you were trying? I think you already explained that with both songs, but you were talking about the tempos. But what were you feeling? What were you thinking? If there was a story that you were trying to, or a scene you were trying to paint, what would they be describing?
I mean, I think that what I'm trying to describe is perhaps the original intent of the song. So when I learn these songs, I always at first look to the original song itself, and then I also look at the original lyrics that are written for the song, and I always write them down by ear and then read them as if it were a poem or a story. And so I think of those when I'm playing the song. So I guess for the first one, Body and Soul is really a song of kind of melancholy love, of wanting to be with someone, but I guess not being able to be that, and kind of being all for them. I'm all for you, body and soul. So I guess I'm thinking of that kind of, I don't know, that kind of not just plain sadness, but kind of like a longing.
There's also beauty in that agony or that pain.
Of course, yeah.
And in the second song, what were you trying to express with that one?
So that song is actually, in its lyrics, is kind of a little bit, they have kind of comical lyrics. So I was thinking, I guess, of being more playful. And then I really like the harmonic changes of that tune because it kind of jumps around to, I guess, more on traditional territory. So I'm thinking of, I guess, trying to be very lively and bright with that song.
It's interesting you were talking about wanting to get to the original versions of those songs in classical music. That's a big debate because people, we have versions of printed music called the urtext, where they try to get rid of the later publications where editors were putting their own marks in and try to get to the pure version of what Mozart or what Bach wrote and get rid of all the extra markings so that they try to find the composer's original intended. Listening to you talk, it's not like, well, she's describing urtext classical music there. So it's interesting that you still have that classical kind of mindset for purity, and yet, of course, joined with the freedom to do whatever you want. And Maya, you're how old now?
I'm 18.
It's amazing. You're talking, but it sounds like you have a very old soul. It's just the way you, in all the best ways. I mean, your musicianship is just so touching. But it almost feels like you've lived a long life through these songs, and I just can't wait to see how you develop with your mind, your engineering, your music. And you've got a very exciting future ahead of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to play for us and to be on the show.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for spending time with us. If you enjoy this, be sure to subscribe so that we can let you know whenever we have new episodes. For the Cunningham Piano Show, I'm Hugh Sung. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.